We're always taught that the world kind of revolves around the average, right? Average height, average grades, average everything. But what if I told you that in some of the most important parts of your life, the average is basically a myth, that our world is actually driven by these extreme, totally unpredictable events that just shatter our sense of what's normal?
I mean, really think about it. We see bell curves drawn for everything, which suggests most things just kind of cluster around the middle. And yet, we all know there's extreme wealth, viral videos that come out of nowhere, and books that become global phenomenons. They seem to break all the rules. So, what is really going on? Why isn't everything just, average?
So on the one hand, you've got this predictable world. Human height is a perfect example. You're never, ever going to meet someone who is 5 times taller than the average person. It's just physically not possible. But then you have this other world, the extreme world. Online, it's totally normal for one video to blow up and get 1,000 or even 1,000,000 times more views than the average. These aren't just different. They're like two completely different universes operating under different laws of physics.
All right, to really get our heads around these two worlds, let's take a little trip. We're going to a metaphorical casino to play 3 different games. And trust me, each one of these games is going to reveal a huge secret about how the world actually works.
Okay, first up, we have a super simple, straightforward game. We're going to toss a coin 100 times. Every time it lands on heads, you win $1. That's it. And the key word here, you got to remember it, is additive. Each win adds $1 to your stack.
So, how much do you expect to walk away with? You can probably guess, right? The math is simple. The most likely payout is $50. If you play this game 100 times, your winnings are going to be bunched right around that $50 mark, almost every single time. It's safe, it's predictable.
And that, right there, is a perfect picture of the normal distribution. When a bunch of small, random things just add up, kind of like all the little genetic and environmental factors that decide how tall you are, the results all cluster around a stable, predictable average. This is the world of the typical.
Okay, now for game number 2. And listen up, because the rules change just a little bit, but the outcome, it's a whole different story. You start with $1. This time, for every heads, you multiply your money by 1.1. For every tails, you multiply by 0.9. We just switched from adding to multiplying. That's it.
So what do you think is going to happen? You'd think you'd at least break even, right? Maybe make a tiny bit? Nope, not even close. The most likely outcome, what you'd probably walk away with, is just 61 cents. Yeah, you start with $1 and you probably end up losing money.
So what in the world is going on here? Well, this is the log normal distribution. This is what happens when things multiply instead of add. Think about an investment compounding over the years. It creates this massive inequality. Most people get pretty modest results, but then you have this long tail of a few people who get these insane, massive wins that drag the average way up, even though most of the players are actually losing.
All right, let's head over to the final table. And this is where things get, well, they get weird. You start with $1. We flip a coin, and your payout doubles for every single tails you get. The game only stops when you hit a heads. So, heads on the first flip, you get $2. Tails then heads, you get $4. 2 tails then heads, $8, and so on and so on.
So, what's the expected payout for this game? How much would be a fair price to pay to sit down at this table? Well, the mathematically correct, absolutely mind-bending answer is infinity. Yep. This is a famous problem called the St. Petersburg paradox. And just like that, welcome to the wild world of power laws. In this world, the average is completely meaningless because it's so ridiculously skewed by these rare, gigantic events. It's like trying to find the average wealth of people in a coffee shop when Bill Gates walks in. His money changes everything. See, in a power law world, the outliers, they're not just interesting little exceptions. They're pretty much the whole story.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds completely nuts, right? An infinite average? So the really big question is, what on earth actually creates these power laws in the real world?
I mean, what kind of system has no real average, where a tiny little nudge can cause a massive outcome, and where what happened yesterday is a terrible guide for what might happen tomorrow?
Well, the answer, believe it or not, comes from physics. We're talking about systems that are balanced right on a knife's edge, a tipping point. Physicists have a name for this state. They call it criticality. And this is where things get unbelievably interesting and totally unpredictable.
The best way to picture this is with something called the sandpile model. Just imagine it. You're dropping grains of sand one by one. A little pile starts to form. It gets steeper and steeper until it reaches this critical state. And from that moment on, the very next grain of sand you drop could do almost nothing, or it could trigger a colossal avalanche that takes down half the pile. The system has organized itself into this state of perfect instability.
And this right here, this is the absolute key. The cause of every avalanche, whether it's tiny or huge, is exactly the same. One single grain of sand. It's like a lightning strike. It could hit one tree, or it could start a fire that burns down the whole forest. An idea could just vanish, or it could literally change the world. The input is identical, but in a critical system, the outcome is just a total crapshoot.
Okay, so what? What does this all mean for you and me? Well, it means everything. It means you absolutely have to know what game you're playing, because the strategy that leads to success in the normal world will get you crushed in a power law world, and the other way around too.
Let's break it down. In the normal world, like, say, running a restaurant, the average is king. Success is all about consistency, quality control, and minimizing risk. But in a power law world, like venture capital investing, the outliers are all that matter. Success comes from persistence, making tons of intelligent bets, knowing full well that most of them are going to fail, all for that one investment that pays for everything else 100 times over.
And look, this isn't some abstract academic idea. Power laws are everywhere in the modern world. Venture capital, being a YouTube creator, trying to publish a book, the stock market, even how scientific papers get cited or how big cities get. All these things are governed by power laws. In all these fields, a tiny, tiny fraction of people get a massive, massive share of the success.
So let's bring this all home. The real takeaway here is that once you see this distinction, the normal world versus the power law world, you start to see your own life and your own work in a completely new light.
Because if you know you're playing in a power law game, you have to accept something. Most of what you do won't move the needle much. But, and this is a huge but, you also have to realize that any single action, one more video, one more cold call, one more email, could be that one grain of sand that triggers the avalanche. It could do nothing, or it could change absolutely everything.
There's actually a perfect story from the source material for this. A physics student named Casper got really inspired by this idea. He literally wrote in his notebook, "One idea could transform your entire life." And right underneath it, he wrote, "Send an email to Veritasium." So he did it. He sent the email. A week went by, nothing. 2 weeks, nothing. And then, finally, a reply came. And that one email launched his entire career producing videos. That was his grain of sand.
And that really is what this all boils down to. Are you in a game where slow, steady consistency is the path to success? Or are you in a game where you need persistence, you need to make a lot of smart bets, hoping for that one massive breakthrough? Understanding the difference isn't just a cool thought experiment. It might be the most important strategic question you ever ask yourself. So I'll just leave you with that thought. What game are you playing?